right, hi everyone. Welcome to the October Maine Recovery Council meeting. You may have noticed that Pat is not present, so I will be stepping in to chair today's meeting. Fortunately, Amber is unable to join us and Paul will be arriving a little bit late. So to get started, we'll do introductions of counselors starting on Zoom. Sheriff Brackett.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Brackett. I'm the sheriff in Lincoln County.
Liz.
Hi, my name is Liz Blackwell Moore. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the director of Cumberland County Public Health, and I'm not feeling great today, so I'm going to be off camera unless I have to be. Thanks.
Liz. Melissa.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Hackett. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the coordinator of the Maine Child Welfare Action Network. I'm going to be driving for a little bit, so I'm also going to go off camera, but listening, and I will come back on screen to vote as needed. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Melissa. And we'll come back to the room starting with Joe.
Hello, everyone. Joe Everett, President and CEO of the Opportunity Alliance, member of the council and chair of the Grants Program Committee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Reagan LaRochelle. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the chair of the Maine Recovery Access Project Board.
Hey everyone, my name is Zero Stewart, the budget officer.
Good afternoon, Betsy Fitzgerald representing the litigating subdivisions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tess Parks. I'm the vice chair of the Maine Recovery Council and a person in long-term recovery.
Everyone, Chastity Toole. I'm the executive director of the Recovery Council and a person with lived experience.
Elizabeth Fortier. I am the coordinator for the Maine Recovery.
My name is Grayson Havens, and I'm with the Attorney General's office.
Brendan O'Neill with the Attorney General's office.
Maggie McLaughlin, representing on the litigating subdivisions member.
Jamal William, Maine Reentry Network.
I am Deb Poland. I am the director of clinical services with the Office of Behavioral Health with the Department of Health and Human Services.
So the Maine Recovery Council reserves the first 15 minutes for public comment. We have some youth who have joined us today, and I've heard that 5 of them will be speaking. Welcome, everyone. You'll have 3 minutes each. And our only asks are that you state your name, which will help for our minutes, and to not make any specific requests for a specific organization for funding. So we get started. Do we have our first speaker?
Just want to stand here.
Sure. Does that work for you?
Good afternoon, Chairperson Parks, members of the Maine Recovery Council. My name is Jasmine Sinclair, and I'm here representing Washington County. I'm going to read Serenity Cushing's statement that she wrote out for me to read to you. My name is Serenity Cushing, and I'm a resident of the town of Dennysville. I'm a psych major at Orono. My mom's a substance abuse counselor, and I've spent my entire life in the county with the highest substance misuse rate. And I'm here today to tell you what I believe should be done with the settlement funds. On September 8th of last year, I gave Narcan, also known as naloxone, to a man on the side of the road on the way to my brother's football game. Pedestrians watched roadside because I was the only person carrying Narcan. Narcan I received from the recovery center. I feel as though the settlement funds should be allocated to recovery centers for all work that they do to access harm reduction, access to food and fresh produce, access to weather and an event appropriate clothing for all ages, educational access and resources that others may need, and being there for the community, whether by many events they host or by also keeping the center open just for people to sit and talk, for people to have genuine, judgmental interactions. My apologies, it's not my handwriting. For those reasons, I feel the allotted funds should be allocated to the recovery centers so they can continue to help people in need the way they do best. Thank you for your time.
We have another speaker.
get to stay right here as well. Alrighty. Good afternoon, Chairperson Parks and members of the Maine Recovery Council, and thank you for giving me the room to speak today. My name is Kirsten, and I'm from a small island in Maine. And I'm here because I want to use my voice and presence to stand up for what is right. Addiction speaks to me specifically as I know and love many who suffer from substance abuse. I'm also here as a community member and as someone who refuses to let youth voices be left out of the conversation when it comes to opioid settlement decisions. Because this isn't just about dollars and programs, it's about real lives. It's about the kids growing up in homes where addiction is present and the kids that are often the quietest in the room because they don't fully understand what's going on. We talk about prevention, we talk about treatment, but what we're missing is education. Education that empowers kids to recognize what they're living through and speak up without fear. Because here's the truth. A child will not advocate for themselves if they think speaking up means getting taken away. They need to know that help doesn't mean punishment and that support doesn't mean separation. Support can't just be for the individual as well. It has to be for the whole family. Addiction isn't a one-time issue, it's a lifelong disease. There is no magic cure, and a person who has used substances, whether in active use or recovery, is still fighting that battle every single day. So let's stop pretending we can fix people and instead start building systems that teach, support, and most of all, love. Programs funded by these settlements need to reflect that reality. They need to include youth voices and they need to focus on long-term care, not just crisis response. They need to be built with compassion, not shame. Programs similar to family-based recovery programs, however, not exactly as this program is also sadly flawed. We need this program for the community and not just for select age groups, but for families of all ages. We often speak about supporting our community's adolescents, yet we face restrictive requirements that limit our ability to do so. Currently, children must be between 72 months and 6 years old to participate. But addiction and the impact it has on families does not have an age limit. It's time we acknowledge that every family, regardless of the child's age, deserves access to the same level of support, education, and opportunity. This program provides more than resources. It offers hope, and hope is not only wanted, it is desperately needed. If we truly want to see change, don't settle without us. Don't settle without the voices of the kids who are living this, because we are not just the future, we're the present. We deserve to be heard. Thank you.
We have another speaker. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Parks and members of the council. My name is Matthew Davis and I live in Bangor, Maine. I'm here today to speak about the opioid settlement and how I believe the funds should be used. This issue is very personal to me. I have friends, family members, and acquaintances who are in recovery from opioids and alcohol. I've seen the struggles they face, the strength it takes to rebuild their lives. I also lived in low-income housing my whole life and in my neighborhood. Opioids are a real problem. We've had overdoses in our community, and while I haven't had to respond personally, I did witness one when I was younger, and it left a lasting impact on me. I believe the settlement money should go towards helping low-income individuals and families who are in recovery from opioids and other substances. These funds could be used to support housing, food, transportation, treatment, and other essential needs. When people are trying to recover, having a stability in these basic areas can make the difference between relapse and lasting recovery. Investing in recovery support for low-income Mainers would save life, strengthen families, and improve the safety and well-being of our entire community. This funding is an opportunity to bring real change to the people in neighborhoods that have been hit the hardest by an opioid crisis. Please consider directing this money towards programs to help people recover and rebuild their lives. Doing so would make Bangor and Maine as a whole a stronger, safer, and more compassionate place to live. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to this important issue.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Dear Councilwoman Park and members of the council, I've been a witness to the struggles in Lewiston. I think more money should be invested into youth justice programs because a lot of young people just need support and guidance, not punishment. When teens make mistakes, it's usually because they don't have the right help or communities around them. Programs that focus on education, therapy, and job training actually help us turn our lives around and stay out of trouble for good. If we invest into these programs, we're not just helping individual teams, we're building a better and safer community for everyone.
Yeah, do we have another speaker?
My name is Courtney Gary Allen. I'm the executive director of MIRAP, and most importantly, today I get to organize with all of these wonderful, amazing young people. These are the young people of the opiate crisis, the ones on the front lines, supporting their youth, their friends, their family members, and their communities. And today, their collective ask is that you listen to the voices of young people as you make the decisions of the opiate settlement money, both at the Maine Recovery Council level, at the county level, and at the community and city council level. Thank you all so much for listening to the voices of young people.
Thank you so much for all the youth that came and for those who spoke. I know it can be really scary and hard. Even if your voice shakes, continue to speak up. We need to hear from you. Before we go back to the regular agenda, do any council members have questions that they want to ask?
The young man who just spoke, he's a mystery to me. No, the gentleman who stood up and spoke, you didn't leave me your name.
What's your name?
My name is Cito Figueroa. FIEOW. And I live in Lewiston, Maine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If one of the adults just wants to give us a list of all the names, we can ensure they're all right in a minute.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you. This is wonderful to see all your faces, and it's so great to have guests at the meeting. So thank you for organizing and coming, and that was really powerful testimony that you all shared. So it meant a lot to me personally, so thank you.
Reading?
Hi, everyone. I'm Reagan La Rochelle, and I just wanted to thank you also all for coming. I wanted to know, have any of you been involved in anything like this before? How many people, is this their first time coming to speak in front of a group or adults?
Meeting, is it your first time at one of these types of meetings or this type of event, speaking? Put your hands up.
That's amazing. I hope all of you stay involved in your communities and continue to pay attention and make your voices heard in a lot of different ways. So thank you for coming today.
This crew is gonna head over to the State House and imagine a world where they get to envision a piece of legislation. You know, the last time our crew did it long, so we're gonna go see if that happens again. Well, everybody outside. Let's just all go outside. I'll explain. There's an optional trip to the State House. Then like you guys don't go on our whole year. I don't know.
All right, so we will come back to.
Thanks for letting us take over meeting. Bye.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is to look over what's ahead of us for this afternoon. So after we've concluded public comment, we're going to look over the September minutes. I'll provide chairperson's report. There's going to be a change in order for committee reports with Paul coming late. So we'll go with finance, program and grants, and then governments, and then the subcommittee on the school funding. And then we'll conclude with Chastity's report, Elizabeth's report, any new business, and then we'll adjourn. Also, in advance, I appreciate your patience. This is my first time chairing this group, so hopefully, we'll get through this together as a group. So for my report,
You want
we,
to do the minutes first?
oh yeah, thank God I have these two. So we'll start with reviewing the September minutes. If you have any comments, corrections, and I'm hoping for a motion to approve.
That's on.
So moved.
Joe? Do you have a second? Second. Second is by Deb. And Grayson, can you call the roll?
Betsy Fitzgerald. Yes. Daryl Stewart.
Yes.
Deb Poulin.
Yes.
Mark Williams.
Yes.
Joe Everett. Yes. Liz Blackwell Moore.
Yes.
Maggie McGrath. Yes. Melissa Hackett.
Yes.
Matt Kimball.
Yes.
Reagan LaRochelle.
Yes.
Tess Parks.
Yes.
And Todd Brackett.
Yes, sorry about that.
Unanimously. Pat, since you just jumped on, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I will. My name is Pat Kimball. I'm the current chair of the Maine Recovery Council, and thank you, Tess, and everyone for being patient with me, for being late, and for Tess taking over because I can't be there in person. So welcome, everyone.
So moving on to my report, we have an update to our committee assignments. As many of you know, our bylaws state that we can have up to 3 at-large members on our executive committee. We currently have 2. So Pat has appointed Reagan as an at-large member to the executive committee. Reagan has graciously accepted. And then Jamar has been added to governance and program and grants. Some of our committees have had even numbers, and it's typically best practice to have odd numbers. So with this change, it will also help out with any situations where there could be a close vote. So if anyone has any comments, corrections, otherwise, I would ask for a motion to approve these appointments.
So moved.
Joe moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Betsy. Grayson, can you call the roll?
Yes. Betsy Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Daryl Stewart. Yes. Deb Poulin. Mark Williams.
Yes.
Joe Everett. Yes. Liz Blackwell Moore.
Yes.
Maggie McGrath. Melissa Hackett. Did you say yes?
Yes.
Pat Kimball.
Yes.
Reagan LaRochelle.
Yes.
Tess Parks.
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
It does.
So I wanted to bring attention to something that council members have brought up. Maine People's Alliance had sent out an email advocating for opioid settlement fund transparency, and there was some questions if that was specifically targeting Maine Recovery Council. In my professional life, I serve as the policy director for Maine Recovery Action Project. And MERAP and Maine People's Alliance are working together on opioid settlement fund transparency, accountability. And it is not targeted at one specific body, be it Maine Recovery Council, any of the litigating subdivisions. I can speak for myself that I think it's always important to be mindful of transparency, accountability, and we can always look for ways that we can improve in those areas. But I wanted to just bring this out to assuage any concerns that this is, one specific criticism or call to the council. It's not. It's really just a statewide effort to make sure that people with lived experience are being included in decisions, that decision makers are being transparent and upfront, and also making sure that funds go towards the allowable uses outlined in the MOU. Anyone have any questions on that?
No, I don't have a question, Tess, but I think like what just happened with these young people, giving testimony, I think like even reaching out to Maine People's Alliance, we'd love to hear from them. I think that they're well organized and Pat, as you're listening too, but I think that was really powerful. So hearing from them as they're doing their work, I think would be really helpful to us.
You can definitely relate that message. Pat?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I do believe that we are fully transparent, but we always can learn and listen. So and I had a conversation with Chastity this week, and we'll probably the first part of the year do a brief overview again of the Freedom of Information Act, just to make sure that on a yearly basis, we're caught up on as to what information we should be sharing with the public and how to do that. And so you'll be hearing further on later on in the first part of the year, where we'll do a short education on the Freedom of Information Act, just to make sure that we are constantly aware of our responsibilities to the public.
Thank you, Pat. So the last item on my report is around retreat planning. We had talked about as a group early next year having a retreat. Chastity and Pat have received 2 names of potential facilitators for the retreat. They will be working on a letter to draft to inquire about prices, interest. So if any other counselors have recommendations, please send them to Chastity or Pat by mid next week. Anyone have any comments on that agenda item? All right, so we will now move on to committee reports, and I will pass it over to Deb for finance.
Sure. If you look in your packet, speaking of transparency, if you look in your packet, there is a page that says finance report, June 2025 to August 2025. In our last finance committee meeting, for those that were present, we talked about bringing financial information to the committee. It's something that the committee has wanted to see. So this will be a little bit of a repeat for those that were part of the committee. But what I wanted to show you is I guess the beauty of not being an accountant is I have to take financial information and put it into a format that makes sense to me, that I feel like I can read and digest. I guess the negative is that I'm not an accountant. And so, maybe there's a better way to do this, but I feel like this is a readable, understandable way to look at this. And again, I apologize, my PDF didn't work very well. And I will do a better job of formatting in the future, but this will stay the same, and I'll add a budget narrative to it just for a little bit more explanation. But I thought we could go over what we're looking at in terms of how we've been spending money. And I understand that that's an interest to people. So if you look at the first page where it says June 2025, you'll see the first box, which will show the balance for that particular month. And again, we're talking about June, and that's highlighted in blue. It will show the beginning ledger. The revenues are the dollars that came into the account, and the expenses obviously are dollars that left the account. And you'll see in June, we had a lot of money leaving the account, and that's because we were actually funding the contracts, which is great. And that's what you see in the next portion. You see expense details. So you'll see each and every contract that received funds and the amount of funds that each contract received. Go to the next page. You'll see some summaries. And in the dark blue, what I have is the contract total, meaning how many dollars in that particular month in total were allocated to contracts that went out the door to the contracts. Secondly, in the purple or magenta or whatever you want to call it, you have staff expenses, and that is really an accounting of how much money cumulatively went to staff salary, mileage, travel, staff expenses. We get a more detailed report, so there's always information behind this information, but I feel like there are just some pieces, even though there's transparency, there's also some aspects of the transparency that maybe doesn't need that granular detail, but I still think it's important for everyone to know how much we're spending on staff. And then there's your standard stay cap. And so that's the format that I've been using in the short time that I've been chair of the finance committee. And again, July is the same format. We didn't send a lot out to contracts in July. And in August, we also didn't send a lot out in contracts, but you do see that we had some money coming back into the account, which is great. And in the finance committee, additionally, we were reminded, thank you, Brandon, that there was a blackout period where we weren't able to get contracts out. And so that's part of why there was a slowdown in money going out. So we'll probably see that picking back up. And that, in a nutshell, is what I have from the finance committee. And if the group finds this helpful, I can start giving you these summaries with a little bit of a budget narrative for every meeting so that you can, for those that don't go to the finance committee, you can have that ongoing look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. Yes,
We just put them right with finance minutes.
yeah, we absolutely can. Yep.
So I'd be curious, Deb, and maybe this is for you, Brendan, too, like, can we break out like what's coming in as interest? Do we reconcile or recognize interest every month?
Yes.
And is that available? I think the interest is really important, and then whatever the money coming in from the settlement funds.
Yes.
So that'd be great, I think. we could look at
Sure.
that.
Yep.
Not to add work to,
No.
but this is awesome, this is great.
No, I tried to simplify it, but you know, I can sometimes oversimplify things for ease of looking at the information, but I would be happy to break that out.
This is great.
And I welcome any feedback. I want this to be useful for everyone and also for the public that's watching to be able to know and understand how this money is being used. Pat?
Deb, thank you for this. I don't know about anyone else. I find it very informative. I think we've been asking for this for a while, just a simple, what's coming in, what's going out. I know that the finance committee gets more in detailed with it, but I just think I like the addition of, putting the interest earned in there so we know what that looks like. But I find this very informative. Thank you.
You.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the interest rate that we're seeing?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at our budget sheets.
What was the question?
How much interest are we earning? What is the percentage?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not even sure that's on the finance sheets that I get, but I'll go back and look and I'll get back to the committee on that if I have that information. That's a really good question.
Because what's coming from that question is wondering if do we have it parked, do we have the monies parked in the space that we
That word. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh, I was just wondering where the monies are parked and wondering to see if we could shop around for a higher interest rate. Oh, I didn't know where the money, because I'm newer to this, and I'm just wondering. But if I was looking at it from a business standpoint.
Sure. We can ask the question. My belief is that the prior treasurer and man asked the question and was told, no, we can't shop around. But I want to verify that.
But it has been doing well, to your question, in the past. So I think seeing that as regularly as we can will kind of speak to your question about how much is being earned. And then we probably can get the percentage of, the interest rate that we're getting.
Yeah, I'll have to go back to the OAG. I'm sure we can get it. I mean, I'm just not sure that the percentage is actually stipulated in the budget sheet that I'm picturing it in my mind, that
That I'm hearing the spreadsheet Ben put together. I know he had the line item for it, but I don't know that he had it spelled out.
Yeah, I don't think he did, but let me do some digging on that. I think you're asking really good questions and please continue to give me feedback because I want this to get to a place that everybody feels comfortable with and you have the information that you need without being overwhelmed. That's all I have.
Thanks, Deb. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
Just one quick, ending ledger balance. I just wonder if that, maybe I missed that part of the presentation. I wonder if that reflects the pending contracts.
Doubtful.
I don't think so.
I just wonder if it like maybe gives people a higher sense, a sense that the money is more than, there's more money there. Okay.
No, it doesn't include. No, all it has, it literally is your beginning ledger balance, your revenues, expenses. It's very simplified, in terms of what's given to me. I just try to scrub it a little bit and organize it. But other than that, it's pretty basic. I don't have a lot of detail behind it.
I just don't know how much is in the pipeline.
Yeah, and that's a question that keeps coming up in the finance committee as well.
Because from that, there were contracts that we submitted right at the end of August, so there'll be some payments out in September. In the next couple months. Will be every month. So we can try and figure out a way that works to have that shown on there.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to take up too much time in the committee, but Grayson has this beautiful spreadsheet that I love so much, that has all of the different contracts, and I shared that in the finance committee along with the fiscal years that they're supposed to go out and the amount. But it was a homegrown spreadsheet, which I'm not opposed to. But there was also Grayson saying, and some of it was kind of like what we thought we were gonna do, but isn't necessarily how it panned out. But if we could use that and update it as a single source of truth as far as when money is actually supposed to go out and how much, we can compare that to this and then shore up that in between so we know it's about to go out. I think that's necessary. I mean, from a non-accountant, I think that's necessary accounting to know what you have and what needs to go out. And that wasn't even really set up in the spreadsheets that Ben had given me either. So I don't think that we have a process. So that's a good project to take on.
And are we keeping the Ben spreadsheet up? I look, because you crossed over with Ben, because that was more projection, right?
It was projection, and I'm not entirely sure what his formula, maybe I can talk with Daryl, who is a finance person, and see if you can assist me in interpreting how Ben did that projection. If you don't mind, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, and I think the conversation around what's obligated that we know that we're gonna be going out, we did have a discussion about that during the finance meeting, because it's pretty necessary to, so everybody has a handle on what do we really have for funding that's not already obligated.
That's right. That's right.
And the more I'm listening, it's kind of like if we had a statement of cash flows, we'll have an accurate picture of where we stand at every month or where we're standing at every time we're about to issue up.
That's right. And that's a piece that's been missing. So we need to build that in. I don't think it's hard to build it in. It's just that we don't have that source of truth at the moment, but maybe Grayson, I'm thinking you and I can work through, comparing the contracts and the obligations, update that spreadsheet. And then once we know it's current, we can continue to use that or actually take some of it and move it into the finance spreadsheet. Okay. We have a plan.
Todd?
Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. I think you answered my question. It sounds like you would probably be able to build in a line for encumbered funds, right? Or pending funds, whatever you want to call it. With we know what those grant awards are once the contracts are done. It sounds like you're on top of that. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
We're working on it. We don't currently have an automatic or automated mechanism for knowing what is due to be encumbered versus what is encumbered. It's not automatic. But we're getting there and we've identified the need. I mean, I think it's been an existing need. We just have there's a bit of a manual process behind it that we have to put in place. But once we put it in place, we'll be able to keep it up and keep it current. So getting it stood up is the hardest part. Maintaining it will not be hard. Standing it up isn't hard either, just time consuming.
And I have that your next meeting for finance is Friday, October 17th at 11 a.m.
That's correct.
Thank you, Deb. That was super helpful as a non-finance person. I really appreciate it. And I will pass it over to Joe for an update from the program grants committee meeting.
Well, that's scary. So the grants committee in September, on September the 30th, was focused on scoring and evaluating the grants management RFPs. So we had accidentally omitted one of the proposals. So we had Maggie, Liz, Betsy, Melissa, and Todd.
And
Amber reviewing those. And we, in our meeting, which was quite lengthy and in-depth, we really felt we needed more information from the two highest scoring bidders. So Chastity reached out to Barry Dunn and PCG, and they submitted more information. So that information was included in the packet, and I think we just want to talk about that today and try to reach a conclusion. Is that accurate on Chastity?
yes, please.
So you want to take it away?
Right.
Thank you.
Did everybody review? And specifically the scorers that are here. So Maggie, Melissa, Liz, Todd. From the new information we received, do you want or need to change your scores in any way?
I would, this is Liz, I would change my score for sure, because I scored lower on PCG's budget because I didn't feel like they had outlined very clearly what they would be, what the hours were and the for each per component, and they did that in this so yeah, I would change my score. I guess my question is that I don't think I anticipated the group would be using our scores would be a guide, but that we would be having a fuller discussion and deciding together as a group based on our discussion, because we've received such totally new information. So I'm not sure how relevant my score is at this point in our conversation, and that I guess my hope is that we can come to an agreement together as to which one do we like and do we think is going to meet our needs best as a whole group. But I'll defer to the others who also did scoring about whether they think that makes sense or not.
Can I jump in a little bit on the process, just real quick? So as I understand the process, the committee, the scorers reviewed the applications, scored them, we have the scores. And then at the committee level, there was not consensus about whether there was enough information. More information was requested. That information was received and circulated last night. And I think my recommendation at this point for clear, strong process would be for the reviewers to take the information that they received last night and incorporate it into their reviews and make any changes to their scoring. It could be that you make no changes, or it could be that you do make changes. But take the information you received, incorporate it into your score, and come up with a final score in each category. And then my recommendation is that the reviewers provide your scoring to the executive director, who then tabulates them and comes up and determines if there's, a numeric top score. And my recommendation would be that the RFP be awarded to the top scorer, having incorporated this new information. And I think the 5 reviewers, I think it's 5.
Yeah.
Can send in their updated scores. They should do the scoring individually, can send individually their updated scores to the executive director, who can do the tabulating, and then who can circulate the results of the tabulation. And the council can today, if you wish, direct that the award be made to the top scoring applicant based on that process. Which, as I understand it, the council has an interest in moving forward. That's a way to have the decision made and to move forward.
Pat, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think that I just want to clarify that I agree with what Liz was saying, that if I'm interpreting programs and grant, they had talked about, well, 2 of the reviewers weren't there, so they were a little uncomfortable. And then they wanted just the questions answered in regards to, mostly it was in regards to time allocation that the award would be, which affected, of course, the bottom line, the number of it. But my impression was that we're going to get the question answered, and what Liz said, that we were going to discuss it today and make a determination. I also need to say that just because your top score doesn't mean that the award is granted to you. I never was in that. That's not how we did all of the grants that we awarded, nor have I ever been that just because you're the top score, you're automatically given the grant. That we have the right to determine who we choose. It doesn't necessarily have to be top score. I just need to say that. But I was in the same impression that Liz was, that we were going to have an in-depth discussion today and make a decision to move forward, because I believe we are without a contract as of, Chastity, the date.
The end of September. They have done, I'm awaiting their signature to extend it to the end of the year.
Okay, it is extended till the end of the year. Okay. All right.
Maggie, you do your hand up first.
I think they've noted in their letter, done, that it's executed on their side. So that would mean we have till December. My preference would be to go with a kind of hands-off scoring process, where at this point we just allocate it to the best scorer. I think it's been pretty messy in how it's gone through, and that might at this point be the most fair mechanism by which to do it. I also think we've eliminated the one that we had the most concerns about as well, which reduces some of the risk in going with such a model. The question I would have is, if we go down that route, it's not clear to me why it would be the program and grants group of 5 that does the voting, and not everybody who's been involved in the process, everyone who's committed some scoring in the process. And that maybe it's everyone who's participated in scoring does the rescore. Everybody's got the same information at this stage. Everybody has seen the vendors have also seen the same information. And that the wider group is the one that does the scoring.
And not to jump ahead of you, Deb, I know your hands up. I would, without doing what you just said, Maggie, I'm not comfortable moving forward because I didn't see one of the proposals and I'm a scorer. So I think the only way I would be comfortable, Brendan, with your idea is that it comes back and we all rescore them. And I also still have struggled with that because it's played out so publicly and it feels messy right now. So I think I'm with Liz. I came into the room thinking about one process, we're getting your counsel, but what you just said is where I'm at as well. Sorry, Devin, didn't cut you off.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna speak to this from the competitive procurement that I'm familiar with at the department. And one of the reasons we have such rigid rules around that is because it's intended to be fair, equitable, and defensible. And so although I appreciate what Pat said about, well, it's not always the highest score. If you're not gonna go with the highest score, but yet you have a scoring rubric, and that's sort of the intention, you have to have a pretty strong reason in my mind, why you would not be going with the top score. And for that reason, and because you're saying it's messy, wherever we land, I feel like it needs to A, be fair, B, equitable, and have some logic behind it so that it can be defensible. And it feels to me like the only way to do that is to go back and rescore, whoever the complement of rescorers are, to go back and rescore with the new information, viewing it again with fresh eyes. And I know that it's more work, and I know that we have a timeline, but I just keep going back to, how do you defend the decision that you make? If you do it any other way, even if you do it that way, you need to be able to defend, or it's not really competitive procurement, it's something else. And if it's something else, then we need to think about what that is.
And just a clarifying question, Sassy, for you, Deborah, what you said, and Brendan, are we now talking going back to scoring all three, or did we eliminate, are we, can we stick with the two, or do we need to go back to all three?
What I understood, the committee decided, maybe it was the scorers, the reviewers decided was that the reviewers did not need additional information from that third applicant. That it had two top applicants, that, they couldn't make a final decision about it. It was my understanding a final decision has been made about the third applicant. It's possible that now that this additional information is in, the reviewers reflect differently on that third option, but it didn't sound like that was going to be likely. And because the reviewers didn't ask for that information from the third, I am not thinking they need to review that third option.
There was consensus on that
Yeah.
third option at the committee meeting.
Can I ask that question for the public? I think it's important just to be clear that that's happened.
So, on that point though, sort of related, I just want to understand, I think what you were suggesting. I think the group that has to take this information and incorporate it into their existing scores is the second group of reviewers who reviewed all three applications. The first group, I think, was, I think we have to leave them out of the process.
Can I make a comment? Can you hear that? I'm sorry, I had my hand up. I just wasn't sure if you could see me.
Yep, go ahead, Liz.
I think I want to say to the whole group that there were a couple things that happened in the meeting. There were 5 reviewers and only 3 people in the meeting who reviewed those applications. And 2 folks were very clear that they did not choose the group that got the highest score. So, and they had reasons for that. And it was really clear that happened, but there were the other 2 folks who must have given higher scores to the applicant that scored the most weren't there to talk about and discuss and share. And that just felt unfair to those of us who were there to like override them when they weren't there. Even though we felt like we had reason, we perhaps had reason to do that. And so I think I want to say that I don't know that I would say it's messy. I think it was, we were trying to do the right thing by not overriding when the 2 who had scored more were not there. And so if we have a contract that goes till December, I'm happy to kind of go in either direction that the other folks think seems most appropriate for us to rescore but I think I just wanted to make clear what happened in the meeting. that it was about good process and making sure that the three of us weren't making a decision over the other two.
Was,
I just, very briefly on the sort of delay issue, from my perspective, what the council wants to avoid is a challenge to the process, because that will be in the courts, it will take a really long time. And the outcome, if it's successful, is you would have to go back and redo it. Not that it would be awarded to a different party. So to the extent, you know, where like there's additional delay here, I would suggest less delay than having to redo it all in several months, like many months.
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry, I can't see if you have hands up, but I do want to say that if we decide to rescore, I do think one important piece that felt I think the RFP was clear in what we want, but not how much we want. And I feel like this group, we need some guidance from the whole council on how much do we want, because what we got were three different options of kind of very low amount of support, medium, and high. And so I think that was part of it, is like, when you're scoring, how do I score how much when we didn't ask for specifically how much? So I do think that's partially why we wanted to bring it back to the whole council to say, you know, how much staff time do we need? Yeah, I think that was a big question.
Pat, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. It's just a quick reminder. Remember that the November meeting is a public forum.
On Liz's point, I think that the question of how much the council needs from this contract is an appropriate topic for this group to discuss. So I think you should absolutely have that conversation. And I just want to be clear that I'm not suggesting rescoring. I'm suggesting updating your scores with the new information.
With that said, knowing Amber wasn't gonna be here, I called her right before we started to give her that option. She wants to keep her scores the same. She's not changing them.
Todd, I don't want to put you on the spot, but since you did score and you were not at that P&G meeting, do you have any feedback that you want to share?
No, other than, this process is still new to me. So I don't, it seems to me that we had a process in place. We followed the process. We asked some questions. We got the answers. When I looked at the answers, I didn't look at that with the idea of rescoring. Maybe I should have, that's probably just because I don't do it very often. I'm pretty comfortable with where I ended up. But if the decision is to go back and take another look, I'll be glad to do that. I would like more than a day to do it, though.
Thanks, Todd.
I'm sorry, this is Melissa. I can't figure out how to raise my hand from my phone. So sorry, Tess, I'm just gonna start talking. I just want to make sure I understand the process consideration that's here. I would welcome a conversation about what Liz raised about, like, how much time are we talking about? I did feel like we asked folks to give us more information. I would be happy to reflect on that additional information. It did feel informative to me in terms of the questions and the discussion that we had in the committee. And I would be willing to update my score to really sort of have a process for that. I want to make sure I understand what Brendan was suggesting, which was that that we could go back and rescore the 5 of us who scored recently, and the council could vote today to say whoever gets the highest score is the selection, as a means of not having to do this again at the next meeting? Or am I misunderstanding that?
That is my suggestion.
Okay.
for the next meeting.
Just happened, so whatever the score total would be.
And we would need to bring it back for a final.
If the motion today was that we will award the contract to the highest score, or
Based on the five.
based on the 5, based on the recalibration going to Chastity, then it's a done deal.
I would say incorporating the new information.
Yeah, but I'm just shorthanding. We'll get to the motion.
Sorry, that's what I get, trying to answer a question on the side while conversation, so.
So I'm really struggling, with what Liz said, that this conversation about how much. So like, we're trying to close a transaction while we're like not addressing the needs. So like, yes, and I feel like if I can't vote because I was not one of the 5, that's a problem. Because I have new information. I know, Brennan, there may be legal, but I think that like, we're trying to like just close this process, but we learned a lot of information and we have needs. So how are we gonna have that conversation, to Liz's suggestion? Or, and I welcome my colleagues too that were in the meeting, but I think there is sort of this gap for me around what the need is versus what we learned with the proposals.
I'm just trying to understand, what you and Liz are suggesting. Is the idea that the RFP no longer accurately reflects the council's need? Like the original RFP was for certain services. And what I'm wondering is, am I hearing that the original RFP is not accurate?
No,
That it needs to
that's
be-
not what I'm saying.
No, that's
I'm not
not.
saying the RFP is not accurate. I'm saying that we didn't put any parameters around how much. So and so I don't know that it's in hindsight upon reading the RFPs that we didn't put parameters on that. And so we got different versions of how much support we would get in each of the categories. Because there are some places where it's really clear. It's like, do this thing for this many hours. We wanted this many hours of TA, like that's really clear. But how somebody does like some grant management stuff is like nuanced. And so I think we need to decide as a group, like, are we anticipating, like I hear staff saying they don't have enough time to do anything, which means we probably want more support from somebody to do grant management work for us than less. And I think that's what the conversation was about, that one was more expensive and yet it gave us more support that we thought we probably needed.
Just a point of order, I don't have my minutes in front of me. I don't remember what the original task was to the Programs and Grants Committee when we were asked to review and score. Was that to score and make that recommendation back to the full board, or was that to make a final decision on the RFP? I don't remember. I don't have my notes right in front of me. I don't know if anybody knows. But we should stick with whatever the original guidance was. I'm a little uncomfortable with switching directions midstream.
So the original guidance, Todd, was that we, at one point, again, the executive committee was doing it. Then we discovered this error. And so we put it into Programs and Grant to score, and then to bring back a recommendation to the full council from what they scored and how they had a conversation, and to bring a recommendation to the board. So that was the original piece. The thing that I want people, that my interpretation of being at that Programs and Grant meeting was that there was a real question, and there was a clear difference, as Liz pointed out very eloquently, between the two highest bidders. One was significantly more hours than the other, and they wanted to know why there was such a difference. One was much lower than the other. And so if one of the grantees had it low, why was it so low? Again, can you justify what it was? And the same thing with the others. And when you look at their updates, they now clarify what the difference was in the hours that they were billing us. And that's where the determination is now, is does it go back to programs and grant for another review? But I think when we discussed it at program and grants, we just thought we'd have an open discussion here and vote. But it can go either way.
But I think my point is, and this may be a question for Brendan, if I understand him correctly, is that programs and grants didn't have the authority to do anything other than rate and make a recommendation. So our decision should just be brought back to the full council, which would hopefully answer Joe's concern of how that would, so the whole council could weigh in on it.
Maggie?
I think just to possibly narrow the focus. Todd, to your point, program and grants wasn't able to make a recommendation, and that's why the recommendation was to give it to the full council to figure out. Hence kind of why we're here. And I do think Brendan brought up a great point. This is a very unusual process for the RFP. The first stage was unusual, the second stage was unusual. And so to be the most defensible possible, a quantitative measure is going to strengthen that. And so that's really why I think it may feel like a long effort, but I think it would take relatively limited amount of time for us to turn around an updated quantitative score. And then if we design the motion, so it can just go for it. I think the question of how much support is very relevant. The updated information puts the bidders very close together in terms of how much support they're going to provide, which to a certain extent changes I think it was like the three little bears of like small, medium, and large options that we had. Now we have two very similar options. But both have indicated a significant amount of that could be fine-tuned in a negotiation period. And I think we can commit now to deciding that as a council, how much that needs to be. But at the end of the day, or it could be a smaller group that talks through what needs to be in that negotiated final agreement and then brings it back for signature or something. But that information does need to be out there around what we truly need. And given that it's kind of been hard to generate that, that's why I lean towards more rather than less, because that will help us find that in the end.
Anyone else have any comments or feedback? I know this is a lot to digest.
Well, I'm gonna say this, I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. I feel like there's the second process disadvantage to bidder. Potentially. You know, someone was sort of the highest score, what do you think about that, Brendan? Sort of as in terms of, and maybe I'm way off, but when I look at it, I think that we got more clarification and it helped us, but did it disadvantage them? And does that?
In looking at, how RFPs are done, for example, at the department, gathering additional information and adjusting the scores is an explicit part of the process that is permittable. So I think my belief is that because that happens in other state government RFP processes, it's not unusual. Whether it's unusual, I don't know, but it's part of the process. It doesn't have to be part of this group's process. We don't have to follow the state's RFP process. But I think that's a good practice.
Thank you.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, and again, I think for the good of the cause, that was helpful.
To complicate it, normally though, in a process, vendors wouldn't see each other's scores midway through.
Have they?
Yeah. And heard our concerns with the weaknesses of the other vendors.
True, although, I mean, to that point, again, going back to FOA, frankly, there isn't a different way in other state government contracts, those are done within the department, not subject to FOA. This group is subject to FOA. But, you know, whether whether one of the applicants has gamed the process as a result of having that additional information is hard to know, but you know, it's possible that there's a way to structure the process to eliminate that gaming or to account for it. You know, I don't pretend to have an idea about that, but the thumb on the scale for public transparency is stronger. So that's not helpful.
Just from the program grants committees, side of the house, are we good or just a whole, what's the next step in sort of finalizing your recommendation that we have the people rescore that have a motion?
I would recommend a motion, because that would give the authority, that would, if the motion is to go ahead and award the contract based on the highest score, following a revision of scores, you know, that would be the authority that would be needed for that.
Sorry,
Chesney?
I don't know how I want to word this. Can the justification that have its own single score that adds in instead of changing any of these? Because as everyone's talking, especially with what Joe just said and what people sent back, one provided justification for how they landed where they did. One adjusted what they submitted from what they heard, like it goes to the stuff being said. So that feels like it's a different piece to score instead of like overly changing all this. Just everything about this, I'm
They-
not a fan of any of
I
it.
thought they both changed their proposals. They both changed their amount of money that they were saying it would cost and how much work they would do. They both of them did.
Cassidy, are you talking about the justification they provided originally? The hours in their original proposal?
Or maybe come down and brought. Sorry, one vendor brought down and the other vendor brought up.
Gotcha. Okay, then disregard that.
I think what you were trying to say is that in their response, they provided an explanation of their original number. No, one of them in their letter, they talked about why they provided the original amount. And then after watching the meeting and hearing that maybe needs would be different, they then came back with another. That was the one that went up.
They have both justified their current number though, so we have comparable. Sense.
I wonder if if the choice the council's facing at the moment is whether the reviewers feel like they have enough information to go back and incorporate this new information into their existing scores. Or what, if the answer to that is yes, then the council could, in theory, you know, vote now to, you know, authorize the award to be made based on that on the updated scores. And, you know, ask the reviewers to take, as Todd said, you know, whatever additional time, I don't know how long you want, like what deadline you want to establish, but, you know, give people however many additional days to update their scores. The other choice would be, I think, to address the question of, you know, what does the council need? Is there more discussion needed before the council feels ready to, before the reviewers feel like they have enough to go forward with updating their scores?
I wonder if the discussion that we have now in this meeting is what does the council need? And then the second step is to go back once there's clarity of what the council needs to reconsider scores with the new information. So we're clarifying as a council what it is that we're really asking for lately, but that we're really asking for. And then with that foundation, and this is a public discussion, so the public is hearing what it is we're looking for. Then the group goes back and they consider the proposals with the new information in the context of what it is we're looking for. So not mutually exclusive, one step and then the next.
I think that would be fine from a procedural point of view. You know, I was debating whether following that, you want to give the applicants another opportunity to adjust the point. But I think you have, I mean, I suppose you could gather more information, but you do have information in front of you and you can review the information you have based on the council's understanding of what it is the council needs.
Well, the program and grants committee, we talked about, like, we can't go through another round like we did this last time. Like, we do not have the capacity. We don't, council members have left that did a lot of the heavy lifting. I mean, so I think in fairness, as Chastity puts drops in her eyes, I think it's really like the staff have to share what the need is. Because we're volunteers, and I mean, I think that last time, a lot of the council really did do some heavy lifting, but I think going forward, that's probably not gonna be the long-term reality. So I would just ask Chastity and Elizabeth, and are you ready to answer? Can you talk about that, what you think we need?
I mean, yes, and I think we're still figuring it out, like just in this first reporting timeline that we're in. I don't even know the amount of hours, but like the amount of hours being spent just meeting with grantees and answering questions. And like, it's such a big lift, I don't know. And like trying to figure out, we're also coming up on year 2 for stuff. We have to figure out all of that reporting and making sure the payments are going. We just found out that we missed one of the payments because the payment was due like at the same time as the transition with Mary and I, and it's the only quarterly one that we have. Like, none of our other ones have quarterly payments. And so like, we are still discovering so much. So I wish I had a better answer. Like, I really do. The answer is we need a lot. And no matter how we do this, it's gonna take a lot away. Like, we want to do all of these new things and add to it. And I don't know how we're gonna do that either. So that doesn't help other than to say we need a lot.
Well, then back to Maggie, what you were describing, and that was really good around the negotiation piece. And what's our thoughts about that would we select the vendor? Then what? You know, negotiating it, and will that contract grow as our needs get more clear?
Yeah, I think the like most fair thing we could do right now is not base it off of anything that could be negotiated and just flat based off of black and white, what's in there and what's not. I don't see how we can, but I think it will be important to nail down a number going into that negotiation around how many hours a week you need. But I think we should judge based off of what we see right now.
Liz?
Thank you. I agree with Maggie on that. And I want to say that one of the things that I do think I think we need, and I think it would be great to hear from staff about this, is a grant management like platform, like an ability
Yes.
to do the grant management in a platform. And we do have one of the vendors offered a very clear platform and the other did not. So I just want to add that in. If we have a platform that we're thinking that and want to have an extra version of that, there is one that really had that. And I don't think we had heard that from, I think that was there was grant management in the RFP. That was very clearly stated in the RFP. And one version of grant management was just like, we're going to manage your grant. And, you know, obviously had some details in there, but the other one was we have a platform we're going to use to support all the grant management. So I think that is a like how much question. And that part of the how much was that we need a grant platform.
I think you're muted.
Oh, I didn't hear you call my name. I'm sorry. Again, I think it's important that when you score the grant and you look at it, it's based on what we asked for in the RFP. And my fear is that we're projecting out of what we may need or we think we need, that we had an RFP, we stated what the need was in the RFP. And although there's probably some things that we may have left out, I think it's important to score on what we saw and not try to at this point say, oh yeah, you know, we should have done this and we should have had this added on. And you're right, we may, whoever this vendor is, vendor one or vendor two, at some point in time, we may have to renegotiate the contract or make an amendment to that contract. But I think it's important to not get too far out, to look at, you know, what we asked for, who granted us, who will do the best job for what our needs are, and move forward. But in fairness to anyone who applied, it needs to be based on what we asked for. And again, we have stuff in the future that we need. We don't know what it is yet. And I think we need to forward. If I can make a suggestion, my suggestion at this point is it needs to go back to program and grants to be discussed, and probably, I don't know whether you want to adjust the scores or rescore, however you want to word it. That's probably where you are at this point in the discussion.
I'm leaning more to just scoring, like just what you're suggesting, Brendan, that like score the motion that we bring it back. It's a fun, what the score is, the score is the score, and that determines the contract. That seems like this the cleanest. As the grant Anderson.
For some context, a process the state follows with DHHS contracts, and maybe it does it differently from at different times, is instead of individual scores, they do consensus scoring, where people get together in a room, have that meeting, and come up with one score as a group. You know, that was sort of the committee idea, I think, was that the committee would come out with a recommendation. But it wasn't articulated as come out with a recommendation in the form of a score, a consensus score, but it was sort of the same idea. Here, it's just a little different, using the individual scores to come up with a top score.
I think that also like will save time. And at this point, we've discussed what our concerns are and the constraints. And so I see it as the most straightforward way as opposed to more discussion.
A few members had brought up concern on process with that, of having just 5 people vote and then it's awarded and not having the full council have a say. That's a thought that also crossed my mind, just for in the future. I'm feeling like I would be comfortable in this instance for having the 5 be able to make that authority, but I did just want to put that on the table one more time in case anyone feels really strongly about that, because at least 2 of you raised that concern.
I would agree with the concern on that. And I would say that we learned a lot of ways that we would do it differently in the future. I think we also like wouldn't have started here if it weren't for kind of a bad luck situation.
So something we would try to avoid.
It's sort of like in the spirit of sort of like bringing to a conclusion. If the 5 recommend something, the likelihood of the council Supporting that would be pretty high, don't you think? Or the group, I guess, it seems like, I'm with you 100% on the future. This one just seems a little.
Just wanted to phrase that because I heard it twice, so I didn't want people to feel unheard, not revisit it as a topic. I'm not seeing any other hands, so do we need a motion? Yes. Yeah, we need a motion.
You want me to try to frame the motion? So I'll make a motion that the 5 reviewers rescore the incorporate Betsy, new information into their process and get their scores back to Chastity, the executive director, who will then tabulate the score and report that score back to the council.
We wanted to include that and the winning vendor will be the highest score so that it doesn't
Yes,
have
and
to.
the winning vendor will be the highest score will be the win. Say that again.
The vendor with the highest score will.
Vendor with the highest score will be successful bidder.
Do we have a second? Is there any second? All right, Grayson, can you call the roll, please?
Wait, before you call the roll, Grayson, just hang on. I just want to be sure I don't want this one to come back around. The 5 reviewers will incorporate new information into the process. Send their scores to Chastity, who will tabulate, and the highest score is the winning vendor.
We include a timeline in that.
I didn't hear one, that's why I'm asking. Within the next 14 days?
The next program and grants meeting is Tuesday, the 28th.
I don't think we would need to discuss it at the meeting, so I think a week, given that we've already reviewed the existing content, we're only adding in the addition of 8 or so pages.
So 7 days, does that seem
Right.
fair?
I don't know, Liz, Melissa, Todd, does that feel reasonable? A 1 week?
See a hand.
Thank you. Would someone mind to just explain how that timeline's being incorporated into the language of the motion?
That's what I'm waiting on. We're
Thank
not there yet.
Thank you.
No problem.
Betsy, can you?
7 days?
Yeah, 7 days.
In the next 7 days. That's where we're gonna put it.
From today?
From beginning, October 10
Just assign a date.
to October 17. There's your 7 days.
So Brendan, do we need to say, and that'll be the final, that result is final? Like, that doesn't require them trying to get to a vote, it's not gonna come back to the full council for a vote?
Yeah,
That vote will be final and
the individual scores will incorporate, the individual reviewers will incorporate the new information and update their scores as necessary by October 17th. And send their information to the executive director, tabulate the scores. And the vendor with the highest score, the applicant with the highest score, be awarded the contract pending successful negotiation of the contract.
What?
That's in the RFP.
Yeah.
That's how all RFPs are, like, you,
Pending?
you want me to read it from the DHHS RFP?
No, I just want to get it in there.
Brendan.
Pending, successful,
Betsy, do you feel like you have what you need?
no, not yet. Sorry. Pending successful negotiation. All right, the winning applicant has the highest score and the contract will be awarded pending
Successful negotiation.
successful negotiation. Okay. I guess I got it now.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
Quick, read the roll before
Grayson.
somebody scrambles my head.
Call the roll.
Betsy
Yes.
Fitzgerald. Daryl Stewart.
Yes.
Deb Poulin.
Yes.
Jamar Williams.
Yes.
Joe Everett.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Lisa Hackett.
Yes.
Pat Kimball.
No.
Reagan La Rochelle.
Yes.
Tess Parks.
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
No, it doesn't. 11:01.
Sorry for speaking that roll call. All right, so on our agenda, we have governance committee update next. Paul is not here yet.
Not coming, the email.
Tess, Paul isn't coming at all. He just texted everybody that he can't make it at all. So somebody will have to read his report. Thank you.
You and Joe are the only other people at that
Yes,
meeting
yeah,
anyways,
Yeah,
so given.
yeah, Joe and I were the only people, we did not have a quorum where we could take any votes. But we did look at a potential bylaw change. If you, on your packet, it's like this. It's something that we had discussed. I do want to know any potential bylaw change needs to be approved by 3/5 vote of the council. So the section of our bylaws that we're looking at is regarding the chair. And you'll see below it, there is a possible amendment to be added. I'll read it out loud. So the chair may designate the executive director to approve within limits established by the council or the chair such routine or pre-approved expenditures as the chair deems appropriate, including reasonable travel expenses, administrative expenses, and payments to vendors previously authorized by the council. Any such designation must require periodic reporting to the chair of all delegated groups. Yeah, we're just talking about the meeting that we had with governance and the possible amendment change. Is there anything that you want to add?
What do we say?
Just talk about the, yeah.
No, I think we like the statement as articulated. So
I think there was a little bit of back and forth on the discussion. I had personally agreed with this amendment, just from knowing that the current setup requires sometimes Chastity and Pat to drive hours to get an ink signature, because Chastity, do you want to speak to this? I don't want to speak for you.
Pat had raised her hand
Or Pat?
just a second ago, so.
Okay, so the reason that we talked about this is, again, it's about it becoming much more efficient at what we do and how we do it. And right now, the way the bylaws are and the way they are, there's some things that we should allot an executive director to be able to do without, again, because of the distances, because, Chastity and I live in two different parts of the state, and the contracts are out of Augusta. So, and the contracts have to be signed in person. I can't, some of the stuff can't be done online. So I can't approve something and sign it online. I literally have to sign it in person. And so it's become, so it really, what this is doing is in the best way we think is possible, with making sure we have checks and balances with our finance, because that's important to have the checks and the balances. This also, the way this amendment will read, will just give some leeway and some trust to our executive director to be able to have some signing power which will be much more efficient in getting contracts out. I can share with you the way the system is. Use an example. If I took a 2-week vacation out of state, you could hold up agencies in receiving funding that they need to, only because the chair is not available to in-person sign some stuff. This is really like any other corporation has, that they give their CEO or the executive director some signing power in order to be able to conduct business in a timely manner. And I think Brendan has looked at it. I think legally it's okay. It gives a checks and balance that we need. So we make sure that, funding goes with where the council wants it to go. And that's where this all came from. I sometimes wonder whether, again, when I was a CEO or an executive director, every year the board gave me signing power. It was in the minutes so that it was, legitimate. When the auditors came in at the end of the year, they could see that I had signing power, and that when I was signing off on certain things, I wasn't I had board permission to do so. And that's basically what we're asking here. If you have any questions, let me know or let Chastity know, and we can discuss them.
I support 100%. That was, our conversation. I agree with everything Pat just said, and I think that's what was reflected. That was kind of the meeting discussion as well.
Just two sort of legalese things about this. One is way that reads, that I can't remember, but I think I brought this up at our meeting. The way that second sentence reads is that the category of things that are contemplated to be delegated to the executive director read to me as if they were chiefly administrative things. And I was thinking, in other words, not grants, like not the grant contracts. As we talked about it, it became clear that this was intended to include grant contracts. So really any transaction that the council wants to engage in would be included in this authority. And so I want to make sure everyone's clear on that. This is not just an admin expense. Sorry.
Pre-approved,
Exactly, pre-approved.
so it wouldn't be ED can make the decision to do a contract. Council has already approved it.
Right.
ED could just sign it.
That's right.
Two vendors previously authorized and pre-approved contracts.
On like a legalese question, the way it's written, I read it as, the main thing was whatever the chair deems is they want to delegate, they can. And then everything in parentheses was just an optional illustration of that. And so to me, that gave like full absolute authority to the chair to delegate anything. So if we did want to, is that an accurate read? And like, if we did want to bulwark it to just those items listed there?
I think if the council intends it to be the kinds of things that are in the parenthetical, then you would just adjust the language in front of the parenthetical to probably add after pre-approved, administrative expenditures. But as I understand the proposal, it's meant to be broader than just administrative.
But is it like if including administrative, but and like payments to vendors previously authorized by the council, like that would take care of the grant side of it, I think. And that way, if it's just, could it be other things that are not in this list? Is the question I'm asking, the way it's worded.
Either you would say including but not limited to.
Yeah, well, I think I like the limiting of these categories if they're the sufficient category, so.
I had read it such that vendors does not mean the grants. Yeah, so I think
Got to say that.
in our world, vendors tend to be like very done.
Right, the vendor would be like the RFP that we talked about a minute ago.
Yeah.
Not abatement services.
So I think we could either add that in or make it
So you're,
Well, when it was originally written, that was what it was, the intent originally was, like, instead of everything being sent to me to send to Pat for her to approve and then send back to me and me send to finance, like, that's where it came from. So being able to sign contracts came out of the conversation when Brendan raised the issue that it would be nice to have that as an option, to not just have your volunteer chair have to sign all of those.
Could you vendors and grantors to get to the, or something to that effect, to get to the, yep. Payments to vendors, and grantees. So what you have grantees, yeah. Yeah, previously authorized by the council, yep.
definitely in support of this, because down the road, I think, Pat, you dedicate so much time. And I'm concerned in the future, if we have a chair, that what if they live in Sanford and Chastity lives in Washington County?
Okay. Joe asked me a question that I never sort of circled back to about sort of what are the risks that such a delegation, could have. And, I started to catastrophize a little bit. But I wasn't, like, I'm not, it could be that my office's, admin team, or maybe there are others who work on finance issues that, are able to identify like a risk in such a delegation. I have not, I'm not able to identify quantifiable risk here. I do like the last sentence, which is, the way I read it is any such designation. So every single time the chair delegates, that delegation, has to include periodic reporting. So I think that would be something that we would want to see as part of the paper trail. So I mean, I'm comfortable at the moment with that I have not been able to identify any particular risk. But it could be that we revisit it in the future.
Any other discussion? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't see your hand there.
Just a quick reminder that, part of the issue really is, and I'm not trying to be negative, but the point is that the system that we're currently have, we're on this really tight frame. So, it'd be nice if, when I attended a monthly meeting in Augusta, if the contracts could be there and I'd just sign them or whatever, but that's not how this works. That would be an easy way to just say, oh yeah, when you come down, we're on these time crunches that don't often match with meetings. And if we miss the deadline, then these grantees, and we know that some of them live paycheck to paycheck. It is the nature of nonprofits in Maine. And so we're holding up money that we promised. And it's not, again, it's not money. The executive director is only signing and doing things that have been appropriately approved by the full council. But again, if we had, for a lack of a better word, a normal system of how we pay or put up things, I may think differently, but we don't. And it's nobody's fault. It just is the way it is. And this would certainly make a much more efficient use, as well as, I believe, gives us the checks and balances that we need to be responsible heirs of finance.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the amendment?
Was there, what was?
With added language that Daryl.
Yeah. What was the additional language?
Grantee.
Or
Payments to vendors and grantees previously authorized. Oh, well, okay, everybody talked at once. I'll make the motion.
There we go.
Come on.
Motion made by Betsy,
Second.
Thank you.
Seconded by Joe.
Who made the motion?
Joe,
Sorry.
I did. Joe.
That's all. Thank you.
Grayson, will you call the roll?
Yes. Betsy Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Gerald Stewart. Deb Ford. Jamar Williams.
Yes.
Joe Everett.
Yes.
Liz Blackwell Moore.
Yes.
Maggie McLaughlin. Melissa Hackett. Pat Kimball.
Yes.
Reagan Rochelle.
Yes.
Ms. Parks.
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes.
All right, and the next governance meeting will be Friday, the 24th at 11 a.m. So next up, we have subcommittee on school funding. Liz or Melissa?
Sure, I can just update you. We realized that we have to have a public meeting in order to talk about the agenda. And because it's Melissa and I leading it. So I did just, and to figure out all the people to be on the committee, that we need to do that in a public meeting. I'm assuming, is that correct?
If it's you, Melissa, in the meeting, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do that hopefully in 2 weeks' time, or, a few days after that, and then we'll be headed on our way. We finally do have a representative from the schools, which is great. And we will give you an update the next time we meet. I don't know if Melissa has anything to add. People are welcome to come to that meeting. We have, I know Melissa and I don't, we need to talk about it in a public meeting. We have some ideas of who to invite to that. We kind of forgot we needed to do this part. We were just going to start, and then we're like, oh shoot, we got to do it in a public meeting. So, if other folks have folks they think should be invited, you're more than welcome to come to the meeting to share your thoughts. But we will be, talking about people to invite and doing the agenda.
I think that was great, Liz. And I would just, reiterate that like anyone's welcome to join that conversation. It's early discussions about who else needs to be at the table. And Liz and I are just recalibrating. When we did the prevention work group, I wasn't a member of the council. So remembering all of the conversations need to be public meetings, just changed our process a little bit. So welcome anybody else to those future conversations, and also for you to be thinking about other expertise and folks from schools that would be helpful to loop into that small group.
Do you have a date and time for your next meeting?
No, we just, I just sent an email because we need some support from Grayson and or Elizabeth, or probably both. So, to have that public meeting. So I think we do not have a date yet, but we can let you all know.
All right, so next up is executive director's report.
Elizabeth and I are kind of tag teaming and moving what we planned around a bit to make sure we can get the votes we need. Maine CDC, yep, we do that one first. Okay, I guess SFPs, that's where we are. So with. No, it's okay. With us terminating Cody's contract, they were set to get $225,000 in calendar year 2026, so it's January. We've had a lot of questions, people reaching out and saying, what are you gonna do with that money? So in your packet and in the email, I put together a list. So we all have all the same information that shows all of the certified programs in the state. CDC verified. They also acknowledged the one on the bottom, Kennebec Behavioral Health, that we funded. That contract just started in September. Okay. You find it? I don't know what part of the background. We funded them to start an SSP. They aren't actually certified yet. But the CDC is aware and they know, so that's one that doesn't have our syringe service programming money, but has MRC funds. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I need to break down why those two things are different, since everybody probably isn't aware of that. So when I'm referencing the council's SSP money, the council awarded, they voted December 2023 to give $75,000 per certified site in the state. So anyone that is shown as SSP funds, that's what that's referring to. And then when it's other MRC funds, that is from our grant process. And it doesn't necessarily relate to their syringe service program at all, but at least we have the picture. So in talking to the CDC, they have made a recommendation that they would really like us to consider giving Coastal Recovery Community Center some money and also spurring in the fact that they're going to be picking up more in Lewiston with the closure of Cozy. Coastal Recovery Community Center is the only one on here that isn't getting money from us in either bucket. So that's one piece. And all the ones that aren't getting the SSP money, I would like to think that we would kind of split the money and filter to each of them, but in doing that also, I need to acknowledge Opiate Free Island Project, their other MRC funds. We funded them for syringe service programs. So they have SSP money, but not that specific line of SSP money. So they're sort of covered. I know I'm really confusing with this. And then KBH. So how people decide they want to use this money, that is all the information we really have for you to work from.
So what do you ask?
How do you want to use that $225,000?
Okay.
I know, a lot of background, sorry.
That's okay. No, don't be. I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same page.
Pat, you have your hand up?
I do. I couldn't hear. So the Kennebec Behavioral Health, we awarded them grant dollars or from the grant process or from the December meeting where we gave everybody money?
From the grant process.
From the grant process. And they're not currently, they still aren't certified yet.
Their contract just started in September.
Okay. All right. Chastity, and the rest of the council, this is just my opinion, but I think that I would like to see the money split up into programs that currently are not receiving funds. I think that as long as they're certified and up and running, I think that when COSI is closed, we made a commitment to harm reduction. And I think this is a way to specifically help and make sure that money stays where it was intended, which was flex dollars for SSPs. I also am open to a discussion on the Lewiston area where they had received money, but giving them a little bit more because they are the other agencies are picking up some of the pieces of what happened when COSI closed. So I would propose that we really have a motion today to award the contracts out. It's just a matter of, do we award it to all the ones who didn't previously get money that are there, or do you want to do it to specific programs?
A conflict of interest, so I'm excusing myself and go to the bathroom and participate in this combo.
Okay.
Thank you, Ray.
Can we jump back to the napkin? Maybe I missed this, like, we have 225 grand, and what do you anticipate if we did give it, we'd still have a balance, right? We wouldn't expend, or would that take all the 225?
I mean, the 225, that's just what's left. We already allocated that out. So
But
we
it's sort of
should,
available though, right?
but now it's available again,
So
so
if we did what Pat said, would that just take care of the 225, or would we have a balance left after we gave to the folks that didn't follow me? So Pat said, let's give the money to folks that didn't get funded.
yeah, okay, well, folks that aren't funded at all in either bucket from us is just Coastal Recovery Community Center. Like, I think what I would probably recommend on that specifically is we do $75,000 a year for the SSP, so let's give this SSP 75,000 like all the others for 26. And then that leaves 150,000 and you all decide where you want to break that up. Looking at this, MIRAP, we don't fund for their SSP. We funded them for the Access Center. So they have money, but it's separate. You shouldn't weigh in on that. Main asset access points, we fund them for Sanford, not Biddeford. I don't know that that's gonna matter, like with what's happening in Sanford, and Project Dharma told us they are shifting what they're doing there from Sanford to Biddeford, so that may like equal out and not be anything. We know Spurwink is gonna have extra stuff, and then you still have also Bangor, who it has an HIV outbreak. So your decision where you guys all want to break things up there.
So sorry to be dense, but when I look at the document you sent, it says there's 225 grand. And then if we give Coastal 150, that leaves 70.
Sorry, 75, because we only have a 1 year, so
Okay.
225 just for 1 year, calendar year
So we have
26.
75 grand to be.
Right,
just-
so it would be a 1 year grant for that instead of 2 years.
So, I guess my first question is, we want to spend this money now? Is that or do we need to spend this money right now?
Technically, we've spent it in as far as what we've accounted for, we had going out the door. So this is just giving it to someone else where the contract was canceled. Like this was a payment that was already planned to go out in January, so deciding if we want to. You can choose to do nothing at all, like you can do either.
I just had a follow-up to that. So, I guess I don't have a lot of, I know you have a lot of information about what these different groups might need. Not trying to create more work, but would it make sense to have some sort of, lightning round RFP to get information, how these people would spend the money? If there's an HIV outbreak, or if Lewiston, if Spurwink feels like they could utilize it to cover, or should we just be kind of using our own information to allocate the funds?
Well, would it be helpful to describe?
Just a
how-
point of clarification, all of this money on what you're looking at, that money was not RFP'd. That was money we decided in that December day to give them. So this money that was given to the SSPs, the ones in the first column were not RFP'd. The money that she has in the second column was part of the RFP process. But the first column with the COSI funds came from was not previously RFP'd. It was just given.
Just-
Brandon and Todd.
Just to build on what Pat said, there was a point where the council said they wanted to give funding to the existing certified SSPs. And it decided, just to do that. So it wasn't, nobody had to apply. It was, if you were certified, the council's going to give you money. The council, asked the CDC how many there are. And then the council made a decision of 75 per site to anybody who, had a certified SSP. And then the only other factor was, here's the contract. If you agree with this, we'll give you the money. And so the council could do the same thing here, where instead of issuing an RFP saying, if you're certified, leaving aside the math, if you're certified and you agree with this contract, you're welcome to have this money.
Todd?
I was just asking for clarification on Pat's suggestion. It looks like there are 5 that aren't marked on this list that aren't marked in the. You're suggesting we take that 225 and divide it by 5 and spread that out amongst those, which is what, about 45,000 a piece. Is that what you're suggesting, Pat?
That was sort of what I was suggesting, but again, it gets complicated where some of the blank ones we've already given money through the other process for. So I could go either way on it. But what I was saying was I think that this money that unfortunately COSI didn't get, which was SSPs, I just was suggesting it be divided out amongst the certified programs. But again, some of them, for instance, Kennebec Behavioral Health, I guess they just got certified, but they also got grant dollars from us. The same is with MERAP, received grant dollars from us. And they are certified.
Grant dollars that weren't necessarily specific to SSP.
Chastity would have to answer that.
Clarity here, ABH is not certified. We funded them to go through the process, get certified and build a program.
Okay.
That the ones that were funded by us, not SSP, so the second row funded by MRC, other MRC funds. It's not, no, not all of them are funded for their SSP. Franklin County, they are funded as an SSP from us, but they also have like their recovery center and the planning grant and different stuff. Opiate Free Island Project, we funded them through the grant application, but for their program. MERAP through the grant application for their access center, not for their SSP. And I guess that's it. I'm missing someone there.
Gordon Smith is in the room, not to put you on the spot, but I know that you're in very close contact oftentimes with Syringe Service Program. So I was just wondering if you had any updates or information you wanted to contribute to this discussion.
Thank you. Gordon Smith, for those online, the Director of Opioid Response in the Governor's Office. I've got about five quick bullet things to say about this issue. And so let me start with the fact that the landscape for programs has dramatically changed since December 2023. So I think that's the most important thing to realize is at that time, we still had HEAL, we still had COSI, and that's all changed. And those are dramatic changes. We've also had a presidential election since that time, and now that affects some of this. Number two, I believe that you haven't technically more than 225 because, and Pat and I have had this discussion, I think, before, and it's just not something that comes up every meeting. But there was money committed in that December time also to HEAL that never got paid to HEAL. And so from time to time, I've articulated a theory that, well, actually, we should make that available to the people, the organizations in Bangor that are picking up the difference. That would be largely Wabanaki and Needle Point Sanctuary. So, so I'd like to have the staff go back and look at that issue to see, well, how much is there that, money's fungible. I mean, when I say it's there, you've got, I'm so excited to see the packet today and see that there's a great finance report in it. I'll let you have. I've always said that you seem like you should have that every meeting. You got it today. You got like $33 million. So in my opinion, to go back and say, oh, well, at that time, there was another Heal had 2 or 3 certified sites, would have gotten X hundreds of them, X dollars, and that's still technically sitting there. So, it's a very important time. And just this week, we had meetings with the Lewiston City Council, we had meetings with the Sanford leadership in Sanford. Unfortunately, the city council in Sanford is considering an ordinance to ban SSPs entirely. So I've had a meeting this very day with the CDC to talk about the fact that we might be, because we don't have a lot of leverage with that community, we may be offering the opportunity to, for the first time, to operate an SSP without syringes. It's a dramatic notion, I know, but again, desperate times call sometimes for innovative, desperate measures. And that's been offered by MAP itself. One thing I like about that, of course, is that it emphasizes what we've been saying all along, that our SSPs are not just about syringes. We connect with people, we make referrals, we give them food, shelter, sometimes do drug testing, we test for HIV. These kind of things are really important. We do wound kits, we do tests, etc. So my last point is I do think you need to take more time. I wouldn't do anything today. The landscape is changing. I just told you 3 meetings I've had in the last 48 hours that are really important to serve this population under these difficult times. It's also covered by the entire milieu of, we're already in the middle of a mid-year election. And so we're fighting skirmishes regarding our harm reduction activities in a number of spots. So I'd like to have you be a little more thoughtful, maybe ask if your grants and programs committee has a meeting coming up soon. I don't like the idea of a quick, my friend, Representative LaRochelle, the Honorable Reagan LaRochelle. I don't like the idea that any of them would have to do an RFP, which respond to an RFP. We've not done too much on procurement here because the list of, there's a limited eligibility list, which is only certified exchanges. So you really don't need to, as long as you're treating them all equitably, you don't really need to worry about an RFP, in my opinion. But I do think that you want to hear from CDC and the organizations themselves. You can tell from what the executive director has told you that this is kind of complicated because you have funded some through general grants. And I agree that coastal recovery community center is the only center that's not really operated without, doesn't have anything available. So I do think there's some money that you have that you can commit to this. It's very important. I think our harm reduction pillar is the most at risk of all the things we're doing. And we're going to really need your help and the help of the subdivisions too, frankly, and the help of the Attorney General probably to keep just our existing work. And so just take, just wait 1 more month is, we're not making dramatic changes today. It's just that in the next 2 or 3 months, we're going to really need, we're going to have some substantial needs and we're going to really need your help. And you could start lining that up now with a thoughtful discussion within the grants committee and bring back a good solid recommendation to you, hopefully no later than November, no later than December. So thank you for the chance to speak. I realize it's a little unprecedented, but again, the landscape's changed dramatically. I think you have more money than you think. And we're gonna really, these organizations are really gonna need your help.
Thank you, Gordon. I appreciate that. As part of my job, I sit in on a lot of city council meetings, and harm reduction at the local level is 100% under fire. So something.
Can I ask Gordon a question? Are you supportive of coastal
Oh, yeah.
getting 150?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
75 for the
75.
1 year.
The 1 year, okay, yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah, okay,
And-
thank you, Gordon.
That was the CDC's recommendation too, was them. And then what I said about Lewiston. But one thing on Gordon, what that Gordon said, not on Gordon, sorry. About the HEAL money that was referenced. I think you're both right and wrong on it being available. Like, it was there. I've asked this a million times too. And I don't think that is available in the same way because of how we chose to use it when we did the grants. Like, when we had to up what we approved for the grants, we used some of that for Opiate Free Island Project to make sure they got 75 each year. And I don't remember if Kennebec is in that or not, or just OFIP. So there may be some available, but it's not all available the way everyone's hearing that and expecting it to be. So I want to manage expectations a little on that piece. And we'll also acknowledge with Coastal, they have reached out very thoughtfully every other month, maybe every month now since I've started. But since they got certified, they have been sending us our data. When they give it to the CDC, they check the box to automatically send to us. And we don't get it from everybody as is. So to have a program that we're not even paying, sending it to us, like, that's just, I want you guys all to know that piece.
So I don't know if I heard this right from Gordon, but I think when we look at the balance sheet, we have money. And harm reduction is under siege, so I think we should take this back to the program and grant for its adjustion, because I think what you just said to Tess about sort of what you're seeing, the landscape. So I heard that, I made a note of it, so we can bring it back to our committee to talk about harm reduction and SSPs.
Ask a quick question, Gordon. Do you know the process that CDC follows when someone loses certification? Is there funding that CDC reallocates?
That's a great question. I would say that they don't. I mean, I'm not, no, number one, there've only been like 2 instances where they've decertified.
Yeah.
It's kind of unprecedented. Now it's very short, very little precedent. And I can't think in either one of those instances, because we were involved with both of them, that the money that might not have been sent to that organization got reallocated.
Is that money that's appropriated, but I don't know what the but is. Maybe it's not, maybe it's in an account or something. I don't know.
It's in an account. For your information, it's always been interesting to me that it's not CDC money. The CDC does not commit any money in their budget to these programs. The money is sent through the Office of Behavioral Health, which manages the prevention and treatment fund. That's the fund, you remember, that comes in from the additional fees on pharmaceutical companies, comes in from the Board of Pharmacy, then over to OBH. And it's really the commissioner that has the final say on that money. But it's for 2, 3, 4 years now, the bulk of that money, $1 million a year, has been committed to the syringe program. And I every year, I've asked the CDC, I started with Dr. Sharon, continued with Dr. Barr. I said, if this is such an important program to the CDC, you need to build this into your budget. But I've been spectacularly unsuccessful with making that, with getting that done. So that money still really is, and we're getting into real trouble with that fund because the legislature grabbed $750,000 of it to do the treatment court in Aroostook County. So that fund is pretty much overcommitted. But no, short answer to your question, I do not believe that the CDC reallocates what they would have used of OBH money when they have decertified either of those programs.
Thanks, Gordon. Any other comments on this?
I have a question.
Is the amount that's, I know that we talked about, giving 75 to Coastal Recovery Center, is that a cap that we have for giving to folks?
For this specifically, that's just making it equal. That's what we allocated per site for the SSPs when we funded all of them at once.
And we're in the middle of 2 years of that funding, so.
Yeah, we're,
They received 1 year of 75 per site, heading into year 2 of 75 per site.
right. So if we did that for them, they would only get the 1 year, but they'd be in line with the rest of the programs in that second year. And I don't know, remember if I said that they currently are awaiting to get CDC funding, which the CDC said is very limited and delayed. So they don't know when they'll get that.
And I know my line of questioning was because if they're a model, they're giving in the information already on a regular basis, so they're in compliance and they're not even getting it yet from us. That's why I was wondering if they were able to see more, if possible.
If you all made that decision, I would definitely start advocating for all of them to get more for lots of reasons, so.
So I've heard a couple things. One option could be having it all go back to program and grants, maybe potentially having conversations with providers, getting information from the CDC. Another option would be making a motion specifically around coastal recovery community center funding and putting it back to program and grants, the other pot of money. So does anyone want to make any motions or make suggestions of what we could do as a group going forward on this?
Well, I'm very supportive of coastal recovery, but are we open to giving more than 75? I know was the number we did in 2023, but they're in the process, so they, Chastity, what the need is, or not to put you on the spot, but.
May I ask a clarifying question? Was it 75 per year
Per
for
year.
2 years? Okay, so
Yeah.
it wasn't just a flat, okay, so they're already behind.
So I think there's the ability to give them more eventually, because they didn't get the full 2 years because they weren't in the original cycle.
You guys can do your choice. I'm not gonna say you can, I'm not gonna say you can't. The option's yours.
Sorry. I would support giving them more because they're already behind, but I do keep thinking that COSI was prominent in Androscoggin County, and Androscoggin County only is represented once here, and that's with Spurwink. And so I am cognizant of the fact that Lewiston has lost a resource. Should say Lewiston, Androscoggin County has lost a resource. And so I don't want to lose sight of that either.
Pat?
So my suggestion is that, sorry, Chastity, but the executive director put a proposal together to spend the $225,000 that we have, put a proposal together, a draft one that goes before programs and grants. They review it, go through it, then bring a final proposal back to the full council for review. I think that's what I'm hearing, but I hate to do it, Chastity, because I know you have a lot of work, but if Chastity could put a draft together of what she would, what she believes, because she does have a knowledge base, and she can also ask a couple council members in the process about, she does have a knowledge base of what's going on with the SSPs in the state. She put together a proposal, program and grants it looks at it, makes some tweaks to it or whatever, and then they bring it back to the full council for vote.
Fantastic, Pat.
Is that a motion?
And Pat, just for clarification, are you saying the entire pot of 225, or would you recommend any carve outs for Coastal Recovery Community Center? or the provider in each Garvin County.
I would leave that up to the executive director. If she thought there was some more money to put in there towards coastal, then that's what I would suggest that Chastity put in to the proposal that she had. Right now, again, I am specifically talking about the 225, but in Chastity's proposal to the program and grants, if she sees a need that they get some more funding, I think she should put that proposal before program and grants.
I think what I'm getting at is just the timeline. Our November meeting is a public forum. We would come back together as a full group second week in December.
True. Unless we thought we could meet well, it would be public anyways. We could take a few minutes at the beginning of the meeting, vote on it and discuss it. But that's up to all of you. We could.
I think taking time for the past suggestion, you do know a lot. This is your strength. I think that's a good idea. I think, Pat, we've in the past have done that. Haven't we done sort of business so I think that's.
Yeah. And we could just push it a half an hour or something. I mean, we could look at it. We've got time to do the notification, but I think we could have that discussion. And I really think that I have full faith in Chastity putting together a good proposal that program and grants would, sort of go at, and then bring it back to the full council. And I think we could have that discussion quick enough to be able to vote that in before the public meeting or after, one of the two.
Does that work for you, Chastity? Yeah, that works.
Does it need to be a motion?
Say it again.
Do we need a motion on any of this?
And Chastity's gonna put together a proposal for the program and grants committee about how to spend this funding.
I don't think we need a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Ask, maybe you might ask if everybody kind of agrees with consensus.
Yeah.
Is there consensus on that?
Is there consensus on that plan, or does anyone want to add anything else?
All right, moving on.
All right, we need a vote. We'll do CDC first, that's easy. Or you already. Okay. You have the language. Yes. We just need to update our existing motion for the MOU that we are in the process of with Maine CDC for the prevention contract. The existing motion had the specific numbers and they've had to adjust the numbers for their budget. Sorry, I stopped talking because I heard Brendan whispering, so I didn't know if I needed to change something.
I'm just gonna pull up the previous vote, just in case we can.
Thank you.
This one right here?
Yep.
The last page.
You see it.
Oh, okay. I just, need creature.
Oh, yeah, well, it's the same.
Yeah, I got it, yep. Motion. Okay. So this is a housekeeping detail,
Just housekeeping.
just housekeeping?
Yeah.
Update. Maine, CDCMOU, housekeeping.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Which one are you making the motion on?
Maine CDC,
Yeah,
the MOU.
Okay,
So at the very bottom of it is the motion that we need just to update their new cost.
well, I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
Grayson, can you call the roll?
Betsy Fitzgerald. Yes. Daryl Stewart.
Yes.
Deb Poulin. Jamar Williams.
Yes.
Joe Everett. Yes. Liz Blackwell Moore.
Yes.
Maggie McLaughlin. Yes. Melissa Hackett.
Yes.
Yes,
Tess Parks.
Yes.
Todd Friday.
Yes.
Other motion we need is for Maine pretrial. When we drafted this contract, we accidentally included in their grant award, we reflected the wrong total contract award, so they were awarded 65,000, their contract says 75. And they were sent 75,000. They have been very understanding and they have agreed to hold on to that 10,000 until we figure out a process for either returning that money or what we want to do for next steps. And so in discussing that, and because that was completely our fault, nothing on their end, and just recognizing that our grant review process for them was for all grantees was incredibly quick. I think we gave people something like 72 hours to read and return signed contracts. So just recognizing that, we all would like, for these oversights not to happen, but with 72 hours, people were just kind of like, I'm gonna sign it and I want my money. So, and then just return things. So we kind of are proposing two options. Number one is to amend the contract to reflect the correct reward amount and then go about whatever process that is in discussion with the finance department for returning that extra 10,000 that they were sent. Or the council could vote today to award them the amount that it was reflected in their contract. And they sent it a proposal for what they would do with that extra 10,000. And so their contract includes two separate projects. One is barrier removal, and then the other is supporting people in treatment and recovery courts. And so with 2,500, they would do some of that barrier removal and incentives for the Aroostook County Treatment and Recovery Court. And then with the remaining 7,500, they would focus specifically on a recovery court alumni association. So to get people who have been involved in the recovery courts and then supporting individuals as they move out of courts and building a network of support for individuals moving throughout that process. But happy to answer any questions about this.
You have to amend the contract for option two. What was the question? You have to amend the contract for option two, where there's additional. As I understand it, the contract currently has the higher amount. So I think it would probably need an amendment to, if the deliverables are going to be adjusted to account for the additional money, that would be an amendment, yeah. But you would need an amendment either way, because if the money comes back, then the number needs to be adjusted.
And not to complicate things, but they are doing a separate amendment, just because in their budget, they had planned to set aside money to do some housing assistance programs. And then once they did that math, it wasn't gonna be a meaningful, to divide it and then among the courts. And then once they did that math, it wasn't gonna be a meaningful amount to be helpful. So they're gonna reallocate that money to other places in their supply section of their budget. So things like phones, incentives and things like that. But just because it wasn't gonna be a useful amount. Once it was divided across, I believe it was 12 courts. It was, I think, rent assistance. It was like $700 a person. They did not feel that that was gonna be useful, so. amending it because of that.
So they're amending it to give supplies to people?
To allocate that money to go to, other supplies costs. They support the cost of cell phones, gift card
For
incentives.
people that they're working,
Yeah.
with, not employees.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
yes,
sorry.
I'm getting a little.
Yes.
Treatment cord.
Okay. got
Yes,
it. Thank you.
yes.
Well, for the sake of time, I love option two. I think they're, what's that you talked about, what you described, Elizabeth, sounds great. And they're doing it, the money's out there in the community.
They already have the money.
Yeah. I like their ideas though.
Pat, you have your hand up?
Yeah, as someone who read those grants, if you look at my comment section, I said they didn't ask for enough money. Because they do good work and what they were doing with it certainly made positive influence on people in need. So my thing would be that I would make a motion that we do option 2, that the council vote to award Maine pretrial services the full $75,000.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I would second that.
Second. Great, can you call the roll?
Betsy Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Word, yes. Fred Pullen,
Yes.
Mar Williams,
Yes.
Joe Everett,
Yes.
Liz Blackwell Moore,
Yes.
Maggie McLaughlin.
Yes.
Melissa Hackett,
Yes.
Matt Kimball,
Yes.
Reagan Ludlow. Tess Parks,
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes.
At least this time our error actually worked out in somebody's paper. Brendan, we're passing it to you for the FOA updates.
This will be very brief, ideally. The legislature passed legislation that the governor signed, that it became effective on September 24th. That updated FOA Freedom of Access Act in 2 ways that will impact this council. So FOA already requires certain parts of state government to have, particular office has to have a public access officer. And certain people in the office, including the public access officer, need to go through certain training of how FOA works. Those 2 requirements have been expanded or extended to all boards and commissions in the state, which includes this group. I know this group has already had a lot of discussion about FOA, but nonetheless, this new requirement to law is something that the council will need to make some decisions about, and I'm gathering more information. I'll come back to you in a subsequent meeting with some suggestions. But just want to inform you about it and let you know that more will be coming.
Can I ask a question? For some of us here, probably we are already required to do training. I think it's 2 hours every year. You can do it online.
Yeah.
Does that meet the requirement?
It may, and that's very good to know. I guess I would like to know what that online training is, because I wonder if that could be made available to.
Well, that's kind of my hit. Who's my next hint? Okay, all right. I
I'd
just
love
wanted
to-
to ask.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because, I'll follow up with you.
Aren't you on the advisory? I forget what it's called.
Which one?
The one that you skipped our meeting for last time.
Did I do that? Yes, I am. I meet with them next week.
Okay, so you can be our go-to question person.
I will try and be, yes.
Okay, sorry.
But that training, MMA has it.
Is that?
Well, that's why I asked you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty generic. So
I think,
I don't know why it wouldn't work, but I don't know that it would, so,
and whether they charge for it.
I don't, well, maybe they didn't. I just did it through one of the towns. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't pay for
You're
it.
a member, so.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll follow.
Back to me.
Your chair, yeah.
Uh, So the next item on the agenda is York County updates.
No, here. This was-
Okay, so is there any new business for the council? Seeing none. So. Need a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Just make a motion, a second, you don't have to.
I think, do you want to just say out loud that there's no further business?
There's no further business.
Yes.
And yay, Cass, she said, her first chair.
No. Thank you very much.
Nice job, Tess.
Bye, it's all Chastity, Liz. Melissa, goodbye, bye, Cap.
See y'all later. Drive careful.